Hey, what's up? My name is Greg. I am going to make a chess video for you guys. You're not at the wrong site. Um, we are actually have an agreement to make some chess videos on this poker site. Before I start, let me tell you a little bit about myself and how we're going to do these videos. I'm an international master of chess. It's the highest level you can have is grandmaster. Right under that is international master. Um, I'm a professional poker player also, but I don't really like making poker videos so much for various reasons. There's just there's a few times where there's a few things in poker where I just don't want people to know about really, and I just don't feel comfortable ever making a video where I kind of have to withhold anything at all. So I kind of was approached to make a poker video of some sort, and I was like, you know what? How about let's make a chess video? And I've done a lot of other chess videos online. The owners of the site, that's the only reason they asked me to make a poker videos because they saw those. So this is what we're doing. We're gonna make some chess videos. Now a few of you guys, if you follow chess in any way, especially chess within the poker world, you may know of a famous chess game that took place between myself and Durr for like $50,000, where basically I started the game without a rook. And that's the condensed story. And it's all over. It was all over 2+2, and you can still read about it, I'm sure. But so a lot of you guys may have heard about that. And another thing, there's a lot of chess players that play poker, and vice versa. I know that a lot of you guys who are watching this are all going to be at very, very different levels. These videos I do, they're not going to be aimed for total beginners. Hopefully beginners will be able to understand a little bit, but they're going to be aimed at people who kind of know at least something about chess. And I'm going to tell you, oh, and by the way, I think I mentioned my handle is Curtains. This chess stud handle, I made that when I was a young kid. It's meant to be ironic. I'm not a huge fan of the name, but somehow it's there, it's stuck, and so whatever. That's my handle, alright? What we're gonna do is something that you usually don't see in chess videos. We're gonna try to. I always try to make my videos fun and entertaining for myself because that usually rubs off on the audience, I feel like. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna watch me play somebody in real time. It's kind of like exactly how when you watch poker videos. And you're going to watch me play a game against somebody, and during the game, I'm going to talk about what I'm thinking, what some of the plans should be, and, you're going to see an honest look inside my head as I play. It's very possible I will make bad moves. I'll be able to recognize it after the game. After the game's over, we're going to take a look at what happened during the game, and we're going to get down to the bottom of a few things. During the game, who knows? I could play like a total jackass. Most likely I'll play okay. But I've made some pretty bad mistakes before. So it's not gonna be just me telling you something about chess and like all kind of rehearsed material. It's gonna be just kind of like you're inside my head while I play somebody in chess. I've Most people on the internet, when they play chess, they play like a 3-minute game, a 5-minute game, a fast game. We're going to do something different that I've never done before online, is that we're going to play a 15-minute game against somebody. That's going to give us a lot of time to think, a lot of time to talk about the position, and hopefully it'll give everyone watching more time to kind of just soak in what's happening. It won't be going too fast for you. What's funny is actually I've never played 15 minutes online in my life. And what there is there's this rating system. So you guys are going to be the only place where I play 15 minute on this site here. And so you're going to be able to watch me start as basically a pretty low rating. Basically, you're going to see the history of my rating progression, we could say. Let me just really quickly show you how the rating system works. So my name is Chess. The IM next to my name is for International Master. And as you see, I have a rating in 5-minute chess, 1-minute chess, 3-minute chess. What's funny is each of these rating systems, the rating system is like totally different. Like for instance, maybe in 5 minute, the highest rated guy is 2,700. In 3 minute, the highest rated guy is 2,400. It varies based on the system, and so the ratings in each particular system are, they're all relative. There's no like absolute value that you want to have. Now, what I'm going to show you is this is the 15-minute highest rated people. Okay, so the highest rated people, the highest rated guy is 2,400. Right under that, 2,300. A bunch of 2,300s, a bunch of 2,200s. Now, there's only one. GM stands for Grandmaster. There's only one GM. There's a few IMs, a few FMs. So, with enough time, there's a very good chance I'm going to be on that list. Because the thing is, most top players online, they play faster chess, like I'm saying. So I'm going to be one of the best players playing 5 minutes. So most of the time we're going to be playing opponents that we can feel like we're serious favorites against. I think before you've played any games of 15-minute chess, I think they start you out as 1,400. Maybe it's 1,600. I don't know. We're going to find out. It's very likely that the first opponent that we play is going to be not very good, and then I'm going to be able to win without too much difficulty. But hopefully a lot of you guys are not like so experienced in chess, and that's going to be very instructive for you anyway. I'm not going to really go over the rules of chess. I just, I hope you guys know them. I will mention some very simple things during the game that maybe for some of you guys will be too easy, some of you guys too hard. But, I'm going to try to keep in mind that there's all different levels of people watching this game. So let's get this on. Sometimes I may act slightly, what's the word, unprofessional or something. Alright, so we're already playing, and notice we're 1,600. And our opponent's 1,600. So it's very possible that this is his first game as well. So he's open with e4. This is one of the most common moves in chess. And this is extremely basic stuff that I'm telling you now. So I'm not gonna keep it that basic. But basically, I like to play the Sicilian defense with c5. This is one of the, basically the most complicated openings in chess. Bobby Fischer used to play it all the time. Garry Kasparov. It's kind of just a nice fighting move. He plays his pawn in the center of the board, and I kind of put mine in the other side of the board. So it's like we're both kind of going in different directions and stuff. The main move after my Sicilian was to bring his knight to f3. What he's done is played an opening called the c3 Sicilian. I used to actually play this for white, and my system is to play g6. This is just some, if you're a good chess player, you have like a set of openings that you generally like to play. And that's kind of what I'm doing. There's many different possible moves in a lot of these positions, and I'm just kind of following what I've always liked to play. So he's played a move that's a little strange. Usually they go c3 in order to play d4. Now note that I'm going to spend some time just chatting in the opening. I'm basically sacrificing time just to kind of explain what's going on. I have enough confidence that even doing that, I'm going to win anyway. So at this point, his bishop's here. I'm going to play the move e6. And the idea is to play d5 with this pawn. And basically, it kicks his bishop away. I gain some time kicking away his bishop. I kind of like that I gain that time. So bishop c4 is a very strange move. So once you see that move, you start to feel like maybe your opponent's not that good. I mean, again, he's almost certainly his first 15-minute game ever, because 1,600 is the rating you start at. So probably it's his first game. I mean, unless he just happens to have a rating of 1,600. We can actually look him up. Let's do that real quick. Yeah, so he's played 2 games. He's never played 15 minutes. So this is his first game. Every now and then I take a sip of water and I stop talking. So, he hasn't really done anything. We're just going to play d5, I think. Let me see. I mean, another thing, I want to get my pieces out and get my king safe. So the question is d5 immediately necessary, or should I play something like bishop g7? I'm going to go d5 because I'm a little concerned he might go e5. Although I shouldn't be concerned about that, but whatever, I was. He's almost certainly going to take this. I mean, this is just the opening stage. Nothing so exciting has happened so far. Um, yeah, I mean, pawn takes pawn here. Hopefully you guys understand chess notation. If not, this is the first video. It may take you a while to get the hang of how this works. But basically, you can see in the bottom here is H, G, F, E, and there's 8, 7, 6. So if I say bishop to G7, that means I would be moving this bishop to G and 7. All right? And, you guys are all pretty good poker players, so I bet, you're going to catch up. You'll catch on to this stuff a lot faster than, like, the average population would. Just because, you're experienced in games and stuff. So if you're interested in chess and you're watching these videos, I bet you're going to catch on to the rules real fast. Not just the rules, but just like stuff like that, like what the squares are and all that stuff. I really want to get my bishop out, my knight out, and castle. He probably is, yeah, bishop check is what I expected. And now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go bishop to d7. And there's a good chance he's going to go bishop takes my bishop on d7. And then there's an interesting moment that I'm going to discuss. If he takes my bishop. And there's a few interesting things. So first of all, in chess, you want to get all your pieces out into the action. So you want to bring both your knights out, both your bishops out, get your king safe, and then that's basically you consider the opening a success. This is not what I expected. So let me real quickly think about what to do about this. You know what? I'm going to play the move. I'm going to go knight to c6 now. I like this move. Yeah, I like this move because if he took my bishop, I really don't want to trade with the queen, and then we'll trade queens and get an endgame. I mean, I have a feeling I'm much better than the guy, and when you start trading off all the pieces, sometimes it can be a little more painstaking to, like, outplay somebody when there's less pieces to fight with. So now I need to get my king safe, because he's going to put his rook here on e1, checking my king. I don't want to have any problems when he does that, so I need to just find the best way to get my king to safety. And the question is, do I put my bishop on d6 or g7? And I'm not so sure. I have to think about it. And then when he checks me with the rook, I'm going to put my knight on e7. It's a little tricky. There's like a bit of a trade-off between those two moves that I'll definitely explain later. Basically, if I go bishop here, it leaves this h6 and g7 square near my king pretty weak. So he might move his pawn and then stick his bishop on h6. If I go to bishop g7, when I put my knight on e7, he may go rook e1 and then move his d pawn and then bishop to g5, putting some pressure on my knight. And when my bishop's on d6, it defends the knight on e7, but when it's on g7, it doesn't. So I kind of have to figure out which of those two is more important. And I mean, I think it's pretty close. I mean, let me think. So I'm going to calculate some very direct variation. Bishop to g7, rook to e1 check, knight on g to e7, and then let's say he plays the move d4. Let's say I go pawn takes d4. Then let's say he immediately plays bishop g5. Then I just have some issues there that I don't like to deal with. All of his pieces are bearing down on this knight on e7. It has some issues. So, you know what? I'm going to go bishop d6, and then when he goes rook e1, I'm going to go knight e7, and when he goes d4 or something, I'm just going to castle. And I think even then, there's some annoying problems. It'd be funny if I just lost my first game. At some point, by the way, I'm just going to have to be moving faster than this. Let us see. It's tricky. What to do? All right, I'm gonna go bishop g7. I've changed my mind. All right, I'm just gonna do this. Sometimes when the game gets out of control and I'm doing this, my personality will change. And I'll become a little less controlled than I am right now, let's just say. Because really, the most important thing is that I win. I'm not here, to lose this game in front of all you guys. So, it's very important that I win this game. I mean, it's unclear how good this guy is, but when you take a random opponent playing against me, you know, the chances are I'm much, much, much better than them. But so far, I think his opening is pretty reasonable. Rookie 1 seems the obvious move, which he should play, at which point I will go knight to e7, at which point I believe he should go d4. And then my plan was to play probably pawn takes d4, and if he plays bishop g5, I will go f6. Now, I know that might be very hard for a lot of you guys to follow who don't play chess too much, because I just said something like 3 moves in the future. So there's a lot of things you can do. Number one, you could have a chessboard out. Okay, well, 1 second. He doesn't check me. Interesting. I can do a lot of things here that are pretty interesting. I can go a6, which forces him to take my knight off. But I think I'm just gonna. Listen. I'm desperate to get my pieces into this game, man. I'm just gonna go knight e7. I'm gonna castle and get the hell out of here. Maybe if he goes bishop g5 right away, I might go f6 first before castling. I might. I'm not sure yet on that one. But I have a feeling everything's gonna be okay. I think I'm gonna get my king safe. My position is totally fine. We're even material. My pieces are all developed. Every single one of my pieces is not on the original square anymore. So all that's really good. So now we're just kind of waiting to see what he does. And don't forget, after this game is over, I'm going to take a closer, slower look at everything that happened. And some of the things that I was saying very quickly, you know, I'll show them to you basically in slow motion. Hopefully I remember to get to everything. If afterwards you guys have any questions about this game, just go ahead and ask, and I'll be glad to answer them. So that move's a little strange, what he just played. Okay, I guess I see what his plan is. I don't think it's so good for a few reasons. All right, I'm gonna castle. Okay, I'm gonna castle, and his plan is to go bishop to d6 to get right in my face, attack my pawn on c5, and try to cause me some issues. What I'm gonna do then is I'm gonna go a6, and then he's gonna have to move his bishop on b5 because I'm attacking it with the pawn. So he's probably gonna go bishop takes I'm just gonna play the move, and then I'll explain. Basically, his bishop comes to d6 here, so right to this square. I go a6, kicking his bishop away, and of course, I know if you guys play chess a lot, you know, I don't know the level of the players watching the video on average, so I don't know how basic I need to be. But basically my idea now, I envision this as to go a6. And I think this is a totally good position for me now. He basically has to do something about this bishop on b5. So probably if he goes bishop takes c6, I go bishop takes c6. And then I'm attacking his queen and his bishop on d6. Now, I just noticed that I totally overlooked something. Which is that he has the move, queen to f4. After, bishop takes c6. I just totally missed it. Totally, totally just wasn't, I just didn't see it for some reason. And that causes me some grief, definitely. So what the hell do I do about it? Well, I really don't have much choice, so I'll do this. You know, it's possible my position's not so good, though. It's definitely possible. God damn it. Sorry, I might curse sometimes during the video. It'd be really embarrassing if I, like, lose the first game, because my rating will start so low, and I'll have to, like, beat lots of, like, complete noobs to get back up. But yeah, it's not. This move, he has the move. He can move his queen. I'm attacking his bishop with my queen on d8, so he can go queen f4, defend his bishop, still attacking my pawn on c5. It's like, what do? I go b6 to defend the pawn, and then he plays rook e1, attacking my knight on e7, and his bishop's attacking it, his rook's attacking it. I play rook e8 to defend it, and then he does something like knight to g5, attacking my pawn on f7, and just suddenly I'm getting attacked all over the place. I think I'm just getting my ass kicked there. Although I have knight f5 in that final position. I know I'm going very fast. Maybe I can hold on there. It's just against the guy, like, how do I explain this? It's like, it's a good poker analogy. If you're playing heads up against a fish, you don't want to just get all in on the first hand if you think it's maybe a coin flip or maybe you're 55%. And that's kind of what I don't want. I don't want the game to get really complicated where if I just happen to overlook some little trick, I'm dead. I don't want that. I want a slow kind of maneuvering game where just my skill level will eventually, be enough to carry the day. But, I did a pretty shitty job. Fuck, b6 even loses a pawn to, bishop to c7. Alright. So, trust me, I really am decent at chess sometimes. I just, somehow this game's not going the way I wanted. So I have to be really careful here. b6. Oh! I can go rook a7 after rook e1. Worst case scenario. I'm just gonna do this. If bishop to c7, listen, if he takes my b-pawn, I'm gonna have, I at least have some counterplay. So, listen, he can go rook e1, attacking my knight on e7, and trying to put pressure on it, and the knight is pinned. And that basically means that if the knight moves, his bishop will take my rook behind the knight. And for all you noobs out there who are watching, just to make sure you know this, I'm just going to occasionally throw in some noob advice. I'm sorry for calling you noobs, but there's basically mathematical point values behind all the pieces, so you can kind of keep score. The pawns are worth 1 point, the bishops and the knights are worth 3 points, the rooks are worth 5 points, the queens are worth 9 points. And the king, of course, is worth everything, because if you lose it, you lose the game. But so basically, I do not want to give a rook, which is worth 5 points up, for a bishop, which is worth 3 points, ever. That's not true. Occasionally it makes sense to give up a rook for a bishop for other reasons. Like I may have some attack. I may be able to attack his king, or for whatever reason, there's strange positions where a bishop might be worth more than a rook, or a knight might be worth more than a rook, or a pawn might be worth more than a knight. However, 99% of the time, the rook is better than the bishop. So the guy's getting low on time here, sort of. Now I have a choice how to defend that knight. I can go rook a7, or I can go rook e8. Rook e8 has the benefit, it means the knight can now move without any worry. The downside is that f-pawn's a little weak. However, I believe pretty strong. Oh! The other downside, rook e8, he can still go bishop c7 and win my b-pawn. So, I can go rook a7 and just put a total end to that. And I think that's what I'm going to do. My rook's still pinned up, but I'm not sure what he does about it. So, let's just play this move. And now he has no opportunity to play this bishop c7 move because my rook's defending it. And, things seem okay. I mean, his knight on b1 is still far from the action. If he can't break through and really get me here, I should be okay. My position should be okay. Well, we're gonna see. I really hope I win, though. And the good thing is, when your rating is not established, so this is gonna be my first game, and basically, when you first get a rating, it moves very, very quickly. So I'm gonna gain hundreds of points if I win. Later, once I've played 20 games, you gain and lose a much fewer points when you win or lose a game. Like, the most you can win is 32 points, and that's if you beat somebody much, much, much higher than you. However, right now, for the first 3, 4, 5, 6 games, the rating's gonna jump up like crazy. I don't know what I'm gonna be if I win this game. Probably something like it'll jump right up to 1900 or something. We'll see. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna win. Just because, yeah, I mean, now he's obviously given up on any extremely, what's the word, ambitious plans. I'm going to play this move. This seems like the safest choice to me. It just attacks his bishop. He has to move it now. And bishop e5 may look tempting, but it's a very, very bad move. So I'm hoping he moves the bishop away, trying to keep it on the board. What he pretty much has to do is go bishop takes e7. I go rook takes e7. And then he should probably go rook takes e7. I'll go queen takes e7. And he could go rook to e1. And then what I'm going to do is go queen f6. I think. Maybe I'm not. Maybe he has queen c7 there. But once he goes bishop takes e7 and I go rook takes e7, I have 2 bishops and he has 2 knights. Now, I told you that the bishops are worth 3 points, the knights are worth 3 points. However, that's like a simplification for people who are just kind of learning how to play. In reality, the bishops are worth, in general, usually they're worth slightly more than the knights. Like something like 3.25 or 3.5 points. And so, usually having 1 bishop for 1 knight on average is not that big a deal. But having 2 bishops against 2 knights, that can often be pretty dangerous. So I think I'll be in pretty good shape there. This is a big mistake that he should not have played. Now I have a very strong move. I'm going to give you guys a few seconds to see if you can find it. I'm just not going to move for 10, 15 seconds. What you can also do, you can pause the video right now and try to figure out what I'm going to do. That's the great thing about playing 15-minute chess, is I have so much time to burn that, like, because listen, if I need to make moves fast, I can go fast. So I don't mind burning some time here. But feel free to pause your video, try to find a good move for black. If you're rated 1600 or higher, this should be extremely easy. If not, it may not be as easy. But I'm going to play the move now. So basically this bishop is running short on squares. It can't go to d6 anymore. It can't go to c5. It can't go to b8. So I'm just going to play f6. The bishop is trapped. I'm going to win that bishop. It's all over for him. And once I win a bishop for a pawn, I mean, he's really in deep trouble. He might even resign. I mean, first of all, he's maybe slightly intimidated because he sees I'm an international master. So, and this guy's never played on IC. He's basically played 2 games before. So for all intents and purposes, I might be the best player he's ever played in his life. So he could be very nervous. I don't know that that's true, but it's definitely possible. It's not that common to play against IMs just randomly, especially if the guy's not that good. Again, I have no idea how good he is. He seems reasonable, although this was like his last move was a very big mistake. So he's clearly not that great. But, it could be a situation like that where he's just like, whoa, I'm playing an IM. Yeah, he's just. I mean, the game's over. I'm just gonna win now. I know that may be hard for some of you. You guys don't play a lot. You might not understand, but when I'm up a bishop, I mean, it's just too much, So he just went back to the square he was at, but I can just take it off. He really has no hope here. What I do now is, I'm just, this doesn't really help him much. He just gave up a rook for a knight. He's kind of just committing suicide or something. What you want to do is when you're up, okay, he's just moving quickly, trying to, I don't know what he's trying to do, really. So, let's try to see, is there any, real clean way I can win this? Oh, he just resigned. He realizes he has no chance. Okay. And my rating went up to 1801. And so, the next time I do a video, I'm going to be starting at 1801. And hopefully, I'm going to pick up, hopefully I'm going to win, the first 4 or 5 games. And then my rating's going to be high. And then I'm going to start playing, really, some of the top players in this rating list. And it'll be kind of interesting. And how this works, by the way, when you want to play, this time, when I want to play 15-minute, I just press a button, and it puts me in a pool with a lot of other players who also want to play 15-minute games. There's not so many of them because it's not the most popular game online. And what they do is, you're all sitting there waiting in that pool, and they try to pair you with somebody who's around your rating. So the higher rated I can get, the more likely it is that I'm going to play somebody else, around that high rating. So fortunately I won that game, and now what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at some of the key moments of that game. So, again, just for the noobs out there, the 2 most common moves in chess are e4 or d4. This is called the queen pawn opening because it's behind the queen, and this is the king's pawn opening because it's behind the king. Again, you know, you could try to give me some feel for how strong you guys are. And I'm probably going to make the second and third video before I even get to hear any feedback from you guys. So forgive me if I completely ignore it in a few of the future videos. But so, in this point, this is the Sicilian defense. Back in like the 1800s, 1700s, when chess was like first coming to light, almost everyone played this move. If you play e4, I'm going to play e5. If you play d4, I'm going to play d5. And it stayed that way until like the 19th century when people started to get creative, you know. It's the whole world starting to get creative, you know, doing all kinds of funny things, mixing it up a little bit, going c5, going e6, the French defense. And now the main move is knight f3, but he played this move c3. And there's many moves here that are all reasonable. That's the one thing about chess. There's a lot of options in almost every opening. This is the main move, maybe. This is a very popular move, attacking this pawn. This is a reasonable move, although it's not so popular. This is a reasonable move. But alright, I stuck to this move. This is my move. It's not the most common. It's maybe number 3 or 4 on the list. But I'm comfortable with it. This move's a little strange. And I want to get d5. Like my idea, by the way, my idea of this move is after d4, I'm going to take, and then I'm going to play d5. And when he takes, I'm going to go knight f6. And I'm going to recapture this with the knight. And there's some complicated opening variation. I'm not going to bore you with that now because it didn't happen. But that's basically what I was going to do. Now the problem, see the thing is, when I play this move g6, the idea is to get the bishop out, right? And then he goes bishop to c4. And the problem is, let's say I make this natural developing move with my bishop here. I don't want to go this move now, note, because of e5 attacking my knight. And I don't really have any good squares for the knight. Like out here, it's kind of stranded. This move actually just wins the knight straight off. The knight can go nowhere. If it goes here, the bishop takes it. So knight f6 would be a very bad move. But the reason I don't like this is now he goes d4. I take. He takes. And the thing is, I can't go d5 anymore because he can take it. I mean, maybe I can, actually, because I can play this move now. And when his bishop moves away, suddenly I get his pawn. Actually, that's kind of interesting. And then if he takes this, I can do this. And if he defends it, black has a plan of attacking this pawn again by going knight to d7 and knight to b6. And it's very hard for white to maneuver his pieces to defend that pawn. But okay, that's another story. I think what I did is totally fine. I just prepared to go d5. I just kind of changed my plan up a little bit. And now I play d5 myself. I probably could have just done this. I was like slightly concerned about this, but it's complete ridiculous. Nothing to be concerned about. I can just go like this and get rid of the pawn. So that was kind of really... I actually like bishop to g7 first better. I think the reason is because let's say he does this, I'll take it. And then I'll probably go here. And you know, this position is just totally kind of equal. It's just a totally fine position for me. I mean, the position is kind of symmetrical. I'm going to castle pretty soon. Although in the game, I got an okay position too. So I guess it's not too much to be upset about. So we traded this, and he checked me. And I played bishop to d7. So if he took, which is a totally understandable move. Forgive me, I'm going to get a sip of water. It's hard talking nonstop like this, man. One would think, now in chess, there's a few rules in chess that basically say you want to develop your pieces. That's number one. You want to get your pieces out. And number two, there's a rule that you don't really want to move your queen too early in the game. So when you know those two rules, what would strike you as the most obvious move? The most obvious move to somebody who understands those rules would, of course, be to go knight takes d7. However, once you get a little more experience, you realize there's a lot of exceptions to those rules. Because not only do you want to develop your pieces, but you want to develop them to the best possible square. And the best square for the knight is knight to c6. See, and let me explain why. The center of the board is really important, right? Because that's where like all the action takes place. When your pieces are in the center, they control more squares. Like, for instance, this knight on d7, it controls e5, f6, I'm sorry, f8, c5, b6, and b8. It controls 6 squares. It controls one of the 4 key center squares. The 4 main center squares are e4, e5, d4, and d5, alright? However, let's say I take with the queen, and let's say I get to go here. Now this knight controls 8 squares. When it's closer to the center, it controls more squares. That's how the knights work. So basically, what I would do is I would have taken with the queen in order to develop my knight to its best possible square. I'm not sure would I have done it right away. Sure, and then after knight, I would just go knight e7. I would go bishop g7. I would go castles. And this is very instructive. And just to demonstrate, this comes up in a lot of different chess openings. Like, let's say white goes knight to f3. Let's say I play this move d6. And let's say they go bishop check, bishop d7. Bishop takes d7. A lot of beginner players are very surprised that the most common move is to take with the queen, because they're so used to their coaches telling them, develop your pieces, develop your knights, develop your bishops. But you want the knight on c6 in this position. So it's very similar idea to the game. So, whatever, this stuff happens. And as I start to play stronger opponents, by the way, the depth of my analysis is going to have to get stronger. Because, like, I can't, I'm not going to be able to spend as much time dilly-dallying against somebody who's really dangerous. I'm going to actually really have to use my time wisely. So, this is probably, the first few videos are going to be sort of like introductory, where I really go over some really basic things. It's probably going to get a lot more advanced in the future. I'm just giving you a warning. Although I always try to, like, point out the obvious things for... I'm sorry, I just can't help calling. I hope is the word noob, is that like considered offensive or something? I'm sorry if I'm calling you a noob and that bothers you. Anyway, but it just, it just means somebody who's like a beginner, right? And it sounds funnier than calling somebody a beginner or something. So he played the move Queen A4, which makes a lot of sense, and I didn't. I could have just played like Bishop G7. Maybe Bishop G7 was the best move. See, the thing is, I want to get my king safe, but right now my bishop on F8 is not developed, my knight on G8 is not developed. I have 2 pieces to move before I can ever dream about castling. And instead of moving one of those pieces, I got greedy and I played this move. And I think it was a little over-optimistic. My main idea was that, like, I would play this move, right? And that he would take, I would take, and I would get a knight for a bishop, or I would get a bishop for a knight, I would attack his queen. Because if he doesn't take, now, if I move this knight, it's basically the bishop behind the knight is going to attack the queen. That's called the discovered attack. And, it's pretty good for me. So I was just getting a little cocky here. But now I realize I have to deal with this check on e1, and I wasn't exactly sure how to do it. And this is where I was debating between this move and this move, and probably they're both okay. The reason I didn't play this was after rook e1, knight e7. So I want a castle now, right? And what the heck was it? Was it d4? Let me just think. I had something that bothered me here. I mean, probably d4, and then if I castle, he can take. I can take. I was just something didn't look right, but I mean, it doesn't seem so bad for me, really. I mean, this seems okay, too. I mean, if he plays this move, I can probably, I could do, yeah, I wasn't so sure what to do here. I couldn't move my queen away, I thought, because he can take this. Because now if knight takes, bishop takes. And if bishop takes, he can go rook takes. And what's happened here is he got a knight and a bishop for a rook. And that's basically 6 for 5. If you guys if you're just learning and you have to go by the point system. And that's not so good for me. So I just vaguely saw some ideas like that. Obviously, I don't have to go queen c7 here. I could do something like rook e8. I mean, I think the position is totally fine for me, to be honest. I can go here. I mean, I can do a lot of things, and it should be okay. Actually, though, white wins a pawn here. He can play bishop takes knight. I can't take it with this because of the bishop. I take with the pawn, and then he takes this. And then he takes this. So, it's not so picnicky, but I can go rook e8. I'm sure I can do something here. It's just my instinct. Like queen b6, maybe I can attack this pawn and do something. Oh, it's a little risky because he can maybe take something on e7, but I'm sure I have a move there. It's definitely not a disaster for me if I did that. But in the end, for some reason, I ended up thinking this move was safer. And my idea was if he goes check, knight e7, d4, I was going to take it. And the move I was always worried about was this move. Kind of putting pressure on my knight, because he's threatening now. Let's say I make a normal move like castles, I lose the game. He takes this knight, and I'm dead, because I can't recapture with the knight because I lose my queen. And if I recapture with anything else, bang. So, you know, I didn't really want to do that. Or I didn't want to... I was a little scared, is basically what I'm saying. However, I saw this move. It kicks his bishop away. See, when you get to a certain level, you start to develop natural fears to making certain moves. How do I explain this? But basically, when you move your f-pawn like this, well, the move f6, it's the kind of move that doesn't look right. It's not like a... It's generally not a good move in the opening. However, there are always exceptions to everything. And the reason it wasn't the first thing that jumped into my mind is because it's just a funny-looking move. It makes the square on e6 weak. It makes my king cover a little weaker. However, all that takes a backseat to the fact that it just totally stops White's ideas, and I think I have a totally fine position after this move. He has to move the bishop somewhere. This is probably the best square to come to d6, but I just, I mean, I'm sure there's many things I can do here. Although, actually, the position's still a lot of good ideas for black, actually. For white. It's not a total picnic, actually. I think this is okay for white, the more I look at it. Because if I take this, he starts to get really fast development on me. I'm actually getting really scared here. I think even... No, probably this is the right move. Because let's say now I castle. There's just something wrong with this position. Something looks a little funny here. Maybe bishop d6, maybe queen b3, attacking this pawn. I'm up a pawn, but that's it. This f6 move, basically, is the downfall of my position here. It makes this king really weak. So this move I just told you, like, let's say, for example, queen b3. The queen is eyeing this king. So in a lot of lines, after the knight takes, there's going to be an annoying check. So that's the reason why I have just a natural aversion to this move f6. It's why I didn't see it right away. And, you know, it's probably for good reason, because even here it's kind of, like, ugly. That position I just looked at, this is really not so pleasant for black. Even though I'm up a pawn, it's not so easy to untangle myself in any way whatsoever. Probably I would just castle and try to give away the pawn. Give back the pawn. But no, then I'm just much worse, so... I think white has a good position here, definitely. I think this is what white should have tried. And I think... I don't know. I mean, it's also possible I could have done this. I probably would have taken, though. I probably would have done this. Is there any other move here? I'm not sure there is. Yeah, I don't really see anything. So I think this was white's big chance to, like, put some pressure on me. Certainly I'm not losing. I can play this move and fight on. I just find it unpleasant. I find my position to just be very, very strange. I mean, I should maybe give one more example, just to kind of give you guys a feel for what I'm looking at. So right here, I do want to castle. I gotta get my king safe, man. And now, white should have some, like, really annoying moves. Let's just start with this move. I mean, it's just very clear this is a big pain in my ass. I really don't even know almost what to do here. Let's say I play a move like this. Defending the knight, he can take it, alright? This is worst case, he can do this. I'm not saying it's his best thing to do. And then he can take this pawn, alright? So he's gotten his pawn back. My king is still kind of airy here. You know what, actually, now it's gotten okay for me again. It often works like that in chess. When you're up a pawn, your opponent often has some open lines to make up for it. And once you give that pawn back, once they win it back, everything's okay again. Because I have two bishops here. I can just go king h8, get out of that file, get out of my... the more I look at it, the more I think it's okay. I could probably just go king h8. The reason I'm doing that is because a lot of these... Like, I'm looking at a move like a6. But then after something like, I don't know. Actually, a6 might be a good move. I was worried that like the bishop would eye my king. Maybe I can go b5 here. But it's very dangerous because he has a double check. Uh, it's very dangerous stuff. I mean, I wouldn't recommend bravely going into this unless you're really, really confident. But, I look at it, it seems like it's okay for black, actually, because all of his pieces are under attack. I'm attacking his knight, I'm attacking his bishop, and I'm attacking his queen. So he really has some issues to work out here. So kind of interesting stuff. So maybe it's okay for me, but I think that was his best try. What he did instead, but somehow what he did instead caused me some headaches too, because, what did he do? He played like d3 or something. It was kind of surprising. Then he played bishop f4, also surprising. And then he did this move, and like, I thought I saw this a6 move. I was pretty confident in it, but I just totally missed. Because, like, he has to move the bishop. If he takes this, I just take with the queen. Again, he has to do this, and I do this. And now I have 2 bishops for 2 knights. I feel totally good. I have pawns more in the center of the board than him. Everything about my position is good. I'm better here. But, all of a sudden, I just totally, I just fell asleep on that move. I thought that he would have to take this, so that if I take his queen, he takes my queen. And then it's like, again, it's even in material, but I have 2 bishops for 2 knights, which is a nice advantage in this position. It's kind of, to be honest, when you have 2 bishops against 2 knights, 2 bishops together against 2 knights work very well. It's often like just being up a pawn. 1 bishop against 1 knight, it's not as big a deal, but when you have both bishops together, it really means a lot more. Because they can control every square on the board, they can control the squares from far away. So it's the power of the 2 bishops is really strong, and it's really valuable to have them both instead of just one. But I just totally missed this, and now what the hell do I do about my c pawn, right? He's threatening to just take it off the board. So already I'm bailing out with this move, but he could play this move, and now my plan was just to do this, and I wasn't even sure. I was probably gonna do this. No, I was gonna do it with the other rook, actually. I think. Maybe not. I was gonna do this, but I'm down a pawn, man. I'm just, like, listen, if the guy played this, I would have been in a much worse position my very first game against the guy who's, like, much, almost, like, just much, much worse than me. Probably he was bad enough where even here I would be a real favorite to win the game. But I'm just down a pawn. For not enough compensation. So fortunately, the guy got really optimistic, and he saw my knight was pinned to the rook, and he went here. And now I had 2 choices. This was the most natural choice. The problem is it still allows this move, which is the main concern in the position now. At first I was worried about this, threatening queen takes f7. But then I saw this move, and everything seems okay now. It blocks, it blocks the f7 square and attacks his bishop on d6. So everything felt fine to me here. However, I didn't want to allow this. So I played rook a7. And then he played some strange move, right? Knight d2, which is kind of like a admission that he has nothing. I played this move, and now black just has a better position. And I'm attacking his bishop. He's forced to take my knight off. I take back, and what I was talking about, he can now grasp the open file. Rooks do very well on open files. And my original inclination was to play queen f6, but the more I thought about it, the more I didn't like it, because this move, it seemed very disruptive to me. It just seemed like my b-pawn is under attack, and it's not so comfortable to defend. I mean, I could play a move like bishop a8, but do I really want to do that? So I was going to do something else instead, although my original plan of this move runs into this move, attacking my knight, my bishop, and my queen. But probably I would have done this, and what I would have done here, I would have played queen d6. This pins his knight, so if he takes my bishop, I take his queen. And note, I'm going to give you guys a quiz. Why do I want to go queen d6 and not queen d7? Take a minute, pause your video, try to figure out. Queen d6 is a good move. Queen c7, bad move. Bad move. And there, I'm going to show you why now. The reason queen c7 is not so good is because of knight takes g6. This is like a nice little tactical move, because I don't have time to recapture his knight, because then he takes my queen. And the reason why the queen's better here is because now, after knight g6, I can take it with the queen. And in all these lines, if I take his queen, the knight is rather slickly defending the queen. So he gets his knight out of dodge, and he just wins a pawn. Although it's kind of funny, I have this move, which, you know, skewers the two knights, but he would go g3, it's the only move. And, you know, I could take the knight, theoretically, and he's up a pawn, but they're kind of weak double pawns. The other option, though, is to keep both bishops and try to drum up counterplay with my two bishops against the two knights. Both are reasonable options. But, of course, I would have played queen d6 and not allowed it to begin with. So the game would have went something like that, and I would have tried to slowly use my two bishops advantage against his two knights. Unfortunately, he didn't let us demonstrate that, because he played a pretty huge mistake. You know, bishop e5, and after the move f6, which, you know, hopefully most of you guys found that move. He was just dead. There's nothing he can do. He kind of just went on tilt now. He made this move, and then he made like 3 moves in the second, and then resigned. You can tell they're on tilt when he's spent like the whole game he's been thinking like a minute every move, and then all of a sudden he makes 3 moves in 2 seconds. Yeah, I mean, he resigned before I had a chance to move. I'm up a rook here, so the game's completely easy to win. What I would have done, I was gonna defend this pawn on b6 somehow. I think I actually was gonna bring the bishop back in this case. I mean, just to keep everything solid, and then I was gonna swing my queen into e2, start to harass his pawns, and basically he's screwed. Anyway, that's the end of this poker video. And you know, I'm sorry, this chess video. And because this is a poker site, I guess I'll try to give like one little piece of poker wisdom. You know, I've been a professional poker player for 8 years now. For the last four years or so, I've never worked more than 3 hours in a day, meaning poker. Basically, I play poker to not play poker. I like poker's alright, but I prefer just to use it as a tool to make money. And I don't like to play any more than I have to. So I play about 2.5 hours every day when I'm around, when I'm able to play. I'll never play 4 hours, ever. It just will not happen. I don't play tournaments, so it just can't happen then. But the point is, you know, if I've been doing that so long, I am a decent poker player, even though I'm showing the chess. Of course, I'm a short stacker, so you guys may have some feelings on whether what that means about my poker prowess or whatever. But you know, I mean, I understand some things in poker, but whatever. Anyway, so let's see, what kind of nugget of wisdom should I give to you guys? Oh, okay, here's a good one. I feel like a lot of players have problems with it, especially at like smaller stakes. Guys who aren't winning that much, who have basically, when you're playing a lot of games at once, or whatever, when you're playing poker, you don't want to let your eyes trick you. How do I say this? Like, a lot of times I'm playing, and I just get the feeling. Like, I'll be making, like, let's say there's some standard play that I make in some situation. I do it all the time. I've done it for a long, long time. And I feel like, all of a sudden, everybody's raising me. Everybody's playing back at me. What the hell? How come overnight, the entire world of poker has decided, fuck this guy, he's bluffing, or he doesn't have, you know, he doesn't have a good hand most of the time when he does this. Let's just keep raising him and see what happens. I hope I'm allowed to use profanity in these videos. Probably I am. But this feeling, like, it comes, like, and it's like it's like you see everybody raising you, and you feel like there's just suddenly they're on to you. And I know, listen, a lot of you guys listening don't have that feeling because you have good logical reasoning skills, and you realize that that doesn't make any sense. And I always realize it doesn't make any sense, but it really feels like it. When you race like from the button and the big blind three bets you 4 times in a row, you start to think, holy shit, like, have I just been raising so loose for a few weeks, and now all of a sudden everybody's HUDs are catching up, and so my button raise is going from like 35 to 45 or something like that, and now they're all like, ooh, let's just raise them every time. I don't know. But the point is, you just don't notice those. It's so hard to notice when you raise and they fold. Your mind doesn't process it. And I've trained myself to start noticing it. Like every time I raise in like the small blind and they fold, or I raise in the big blind or the button and they all fold, I'm like, yeah. I try to like make a mental note and just make some kind of mental note about it. Because what happens is a lot of people find getting 3-bet and having to fold to be extremely unpleasant. It's psychologically unpleasant. It really bothers people. And so what they try to do is they try to avoid being put into that situation by playing fewer hands than they should. And again, I know you guys are all serious poker players. You're signed up to this site. You're all probably very good. I don't know what level of poker players are signed up on a poker site like this. But I find that it's very important to remember the times they fold. And what you can do is you need to be just very cold and calculating about it. You need to go to your hold'em manager and just look. Just look at the cold hard data. You can see how often they fold to your open raises. You can look for the last week compared to the week before. And so you can see if whatever vague feeling you have has any merit to it whatsoever. And if you look and it seems like they're raising you 1 or 2% more, it's probably just variance. There's no way that your brain can process that or notice that while you're playing. You just can't. It's not something the brain is capable of noticing. So unless there's like a 5-6% difference in some kind of opponent's reaction, which almost never happens, by the way. At least it doesn't happen overnight. It will take a long time for people to adjust to that degree. Long, long time. So unless you notice something like that, you need to understand that you're just being paranoid. You need to stop focusing on what's happening at the moment and look at the big picture. And don't worry about the fact that they've raised you. And I'm not talking about like if you're playing a heads-up match with somebody and the guy, you raise and he raises you 6 times in a row, and that's what then that's a different story, all right? I'm talking about when you're like 12 tabling and just it seems like the whole world is out to get you, Listen, maybe I've given lessons before, and it's a very common thing that I find from the people I give lessons to. They say, oh yeah, well when I start playing, let's just say theoretically, let's say they open 40% in the button. And they say, yeah, well I tried raising for 50 to 60% in the button for a week or two, but they were just all playing back at me all the time. And I'm trying to explain, like, no, they weren't. There's no chance in a million years they're noticing your stat going from 40 to 50 to 60 in 2 weeks, and then they're all suddenly, playing back at you. And all of these comments, there was no, like, hold'em manager stats to back it up. It was just like a vague feeling. And that feeling probably comes when you start raising your bullshit hands. They re-raise you and you're like, shit, I just put money in with this hand, I have to fold. Again, I just don't know the level of poker player on the site. Hopefully that has some value to you. I think it was really important to me once I started to really focus on the times that you steal the blind and just make a mental note of it. Every time. I just get so happy. It makes me, really, there's like nothing better for me. When I open raise and they fold, that's what I get excited about. I don't give a crap when I have the set and you have the overpair, because that shit happens both ways. That happens all the time, But when I steal your blinds, ooh, it's beautiful. And I've trained myself to think that way. So that it forces me not to play too tight pre-flop. Although, probably a lot of you guys who know my play probably think I do play too tight pre-flop, but, I play tighter. Let's just put it that way. And a lot of people play tighter than me. Alright. That is all. I hope you enjoyed the chess game. I hope to have many more like it. I know this is like a really experimental thing, and I don't know. I hope you guys liked it. Any feedback appreciated. Good luck at your poker tables. Bye-bye.